Hello, everyone. It's Dan here from Fireside Strategic. Welcome to our video cast, Humanity Builds Better Businesses, where we celebrate leaders that do transformational work within organizations, helping their clients grow and lead teams with humanity. Today, I'm chatting with Otis McGregor, founder of Tribe and Purpose. Formerly a Green Beret Lieutenant Colonel, Otis brings 25 years of military experience to the critical task of helping organizations cultivate their tribe and purpose. Otis, pleasure to have you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here, Dan. Thanks for giving me some time to chat with you. It's good to catch up too.
Absolutely. So tell me, what brought you to this place of wanting to cultivate organizations, tribe, and purpose?
Well, the shortened version is I spent 25 years in the Army. I got out and I just didn't know who I was. Quite literally, my identity, as you would imagine, after 25 years, was the Army. I was a lieutenant colonel in the Army. And I had in my mind, that was past life. Moving out, no more need for the Army, I'm just going. But ironically, I went into government contracting, which is still military, and did that for 7 years and worked for 5 different companies in those 7 years. And I bounced from each one around. And it was because every time I got in there, I'd be like, oh, this is the one. I'm going to be with these guys until I retire, until I start taking Social Security. That's what I'm thinking. And about anywhere from 90 days to 6 months in, this is what is wrong with these people? They don't match my values. They don't match my mission. They don't match. But I didn't know what my values or mission were. I just knew that they didn't match it. And one summer afternoon, it's been about 4 years now, sitting here in my home office, feeling sorry for myself, scratching my head about where's my lot, quite literally feeling sorry for myself. Had a great job, worked for a great friend of mine, all kinds of good sit up there. But I started to think, well, what am I going to do? What's been my life after the Army? And I realized I only had 2 things that had been consistent in those 7 years: my family and coaching boys high school rugby. And I was like, wait a second here. Maybe there's something there, because I really enjoyed it. Every day for 6 months out of the year, I had at least 90 minutes where I got full reprieve of everything, all the chaos and things that I didn't like. So I took that coaching rugby, and I broke it down into its 3 parts from my point of view. The game, rugby is an unbelievable game. Those of you who don't know, 6 Nations started last week in Scotland. They beat England yesterday or Saturday. And then the boys, 35 boys, 6 months out of the year in my house as my sons, extra sons for my wife and I for 6 months, every year. And I've been doing it for 7 years at that point. And then I realized there was one other thing, and that was the coaching. That was the putting together a plan to help them succeed at what they wanted to achieve. Because every high school boy that plays a sport wants to win the championship. So how do I help them win the championship? Well, that's my job. And then as I looked at that, that was the key that fulfilled me, is how do I help people succeed at who they want to be? How do I help them achieve that? And that's how I started down this path to create Tribe and Purpose.
Well, it's such a lovely story, because in so many ways you were solving your own problem, right? We're so empowered to solve other people's problems once we can solve our own. And feeling that lack of purpose, I can imagine, is just, and I've been there, is a tremendous problem that one feels inspired to solve. Can you tell me about how does tribe relate to purpose exactly?
Well, so once you have your purpose, and we can talk about that too if you want to, how to find that, you can't do it alone. You can't do anything alone, really. I mean, unless you want to be the yogi in the cave, right? If you want to be the yogi in the cave, then you can do that alone all day long. But if you want to succeed in life, you got to have people around you that are going to help you succeed in life and celebrate the successes. And like I like to say, when you get kicked in the jimmy, help you get back up and get going again, right? that's what this tribe does for you. They are part of your success. And having people around you that want to see you succeed and want to succeed themselves is where the power of the tribe gets. And what I love, the African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And think about that. The power, that's where the real power of having a tribe around you exists, is I get to celebrate with more people. I get to bounce ideas and get honest feedback from people that want me to succeed, and I want them to succeed also. So this exchange is mutual, and it can be in a number of forms. People on the same level that you aren't maybe in your business, you can create your business this way, the team in your business this way. I heard something the other day that I thought, and I wish I could remember it so I could give them credit, but I can't remember who said it. But it was the 5 versus 5. As a business owner, you're focused on achieving $5 million in revenue, and your team is focused on 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There's a breakdown. So get everybody focused on the same thing, and that's the power of that tribe and having that single entity working together.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more with that. I think it's interesting to reflect on in this pandemic moment how many people leave jobs because they don't feel that sense of purpose. So they set up shop as a solopreneur. So right now in America, there is a huge rise of solopreneurship. Jobs that appeared to be steady right now as a result of the pandemic, it's clear, not so steady. So there's this rise in solopreneurship. Often people, in part either because they've lost their job or maybe they didn't feel a sense of purpose in their job, will set up shop as a solopreneur. I've been there too. Not having that team around you can sometimes make it harder to find your purpose. And as you say, I think it can make it tricky for these people who have never been solopreneur, never been any kind of entrepreneur before, to set up shop for the first time, lacking both a tribe and purpose. That's difficult.
Yeah, it is, because you're in reaction mode when you don't have that clear purpose. And by reaction mode, what I mean is you just get up and you just do things. I got really bad at this when I left the Army. And quite frankly, some of the time in the Army, the military tends to teach you to do that. Show up, do your physical training, do your PT, go into the office or the team room or whatever, and look at email and see what you need to do next. Yeah, not such an efficient way of operating. If you do that in life, it's going to wear you out, and you're going to look back and go, what the heck did I do today? What the heck did I do this week or this year? And that's where the change comes, when you have a clear purpose. When you have your purpose, it pulls you. You may still be, your job you're in currently may be that reaction job, show up and respond to emails. But if you have a purpose, you can overcome that, because you can balance it out. And that's where the power of that purpose is, because now this is what I need to do, because I want to fulfill my purpose. When you have a purpose, you want more of it. That fulfillment is excitement, and it's love generating in your body. Right? Because you want more of it, and it's more energizing. And it's like, man, that was good. I want to get some more of that. I mean, that's what kept me coaching for all those years of rugby. Because I'm just like, oh, this is great. This is great. I want more of it. How do I get more of it? And that's why I kept doing it.
Yeah. Would love two thoughts for you. Would love, number one, to hear more, of course, and the audience would, I'm sure, about your philosophy of how people can find their purpose. And number two, when I was doing a little bit of research for this conversation, I saw that you did some of your coach training at IPAC. And have had a number of friends who've gone through that program. And so would love to hear both about how you think people can find, and organizations can find, their purpose. And then number two, how does purpose and energy, how do they relate to one another exactly? Because you talked about how energizing our purpose can be.
Yeah. Well, so first off, to find your purpose, if you have no clue, it's going to take some work. But generally speaking, there's 3 steps. I mean, it's to simplify it in your head for the listeners out there who don't have a clear understanding of what the purpose is, 3 steps. Self-awareness, understand who you are. You have to know where you are today. I call it, I always go back to my special forces days, and land navigation. That's my favorite thing, because land navigation is so much like life. If I don't know where I am on the map, I can't get to where I'm going.
Mm.
And I mean, it works the same with your phone and Google Maps and all those sort of things. If your phone doesn't know where you are, it can't calculate the route to where you want to go. Simple, right?
Yeah.
We can dive into a little bit more of some more metaphors with GPS, satellites, stuff like that. But self-awareness, got to know who you are and how things apply to you.
Mm.
Then the next thing, once you have a good understanding of that, is creating that vision for who you want to be, where you want to be, and what you want to be in the future. The technique, the really simplified technique I use, is create the ideal day 5 years from today.
Mm.
So we're recording this on 8 February. So 8 February 2026, what's your ideal day? And not in I'd really like to ski all day. Okay, well, that's good, but what does it start with? What time do you wake up in the morning? What do? You create this detailed vision of that ideal day. And when you have that understanding, that detailed vision of that ideal day, then you can create a plan. In the Army, we always backwards planned everything. If I want to be here at this time, I backwards plan it out. That's what we're doing with this situation. We create that vision for the future and we backwards plan it out. So simply 3 steps: self-awareness, create a vision, and then number 3, find that plan, develop that plan. And then really the 4th one, that's the hardest one, execute.
Mm-hmm.
Do it. Just do it, as Nike says. So, and then how does IPEC energy levels apply? I love, and all my clients, whether they go through the Energetic Leadership Index assessment, it's an assessment for your energy levels through IPEC, whether I take them through that or I just talk them through it, I talk them all through it, because that helps you define who you are. And it gives you a tool to understand who you are and how things affect you and trigger you in various ways. And I love doing it with the service members I coach that are transitioning into the civilian world, because most of them are alphas, right? Whether they're males or female alphas, most of them are alphas. And no alpha I know willingly talks about feelings. But energy levels give you this really cool tool to talk about feelings without having to talk about feelings. Now that's really exciting. That's one of the powers I believe that I've truly grabbed on to IPEC's 7 levels of energy. That's one of my favorite uses for it.
That's super cool. I love that. It's one of the wonderful things about coaching is sort of not imposing a worldview on someone, but helping them step up to sort of discover their own. And what's so neat is, you're not imposing some sort of touchy-feely approach to people that are just going to reject it. You found a way to speak to them in language that they understand. And that's such an inspiring, that's such a powerful approach for coaching anyone in any organization, right? We are so used to being in our own heads and speaking to people with our language as opposed to language that's going to resonate with them. And you want to build a tribe, that's crucial to doing it, right?
Yeah. Well, interesting about building a tribe is you have to have a common purpose in your tribe also, right? Something that pulls everybody together. Yeah. And then something that sustains a standard of operations in that tribe, a standard of performance, a standard of interaction, core values. That's these things. So your business mission statement, what's your vision and your mission for your business? Because those should be unifying for your organization. That's your tribe. Now your business becomes a tribe. Yeah. And then the core values that you have established for your business, that's what guides them in every action they take. so that they don't have to call you up and say, hey, can we do this or do that? No,
Right.
you've given them hey, does it support our success towards the vision? Are you bought
Yeah.
into the vision and does it support it? Do you believe in the mission? And do you understand the core values? Because the core values are your decision criteria that guide that decision for you to make.
So interesting. And you talked about triggers, right? One of the powerful things about the IPAC approach is helping people understand their triggers. So if our tribe and our purpose can help unite us, right? They can they can march us in the direction we truly want to go. Our triggers can disrupt our ability to move in that direction. So really one way to think about the work you're doing is you're helping people and organizations unify their will, sort of march in the same direction, right?
Yeah, yeah. I love talking about triggers because it reminds me of my old days when I was first in Special Forces. Right at the end of the Cold War, and one of our jobs was the Soviet horde coming over, and one of our jobs was to recognize when they were really coming over, and those were
Mm,
triggers. And then our job, along with our intelligence people, was to identify indicators that those triggers were about to happen. Is this
mm,
just a feint or is this the real thing going to happen? And identifying those indicators was our job. So if you start to think about what are those triggers in your life that
yeah,
cause a reaction, and a negative energy sort of thing, if you can identify those, and then what are the indicators that that's about to happen, man, that's a pretty powerful place because then you can stop it before it happens.
yeah,
Like you talk
yeah.
about road rage. You get out if you're on the East Coast, I-95, and get in that massive traffic mess around DC, or out here in Colorado, it's I-25. Wait, I said 95 in on the East Coast. There we go. Get my numbers straight. 95 out east, 25 here in Colorado. Man, but if you go into it knowing traffic's probably going to be bad, I'm going to
Mm,
I'm going to wave and wish people luck when they cut me off or do something that I want to. I'm not going to allow that to happen.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to have a much better day that way too.
yeah. And I think, yeah, there's the step of being aware of triggers and sort of appreciating that, it isn't necessarily the world sort of mobilizing against you. You just happen to have a particular relationship to certain elements of your experience and your environment. And if you can just sort of honestly own up to that and appreciate that probably you're playing some role in contributing to it, isn't the big bad world sort of mobilizing against you, you're contributing to this process, then you can marshal your internal resources, right?
Oh yeah. Well, one of the other things that's really great when you start to understand these energy levels, if you're pissed off, negative energy, you're not going to solve a lot of things. What do you want to do? You want to go punch the wall. You want to kick something. I had a
Right.
boss. I used to call him. I described his leadership style as kicking the trash can because every time he got mad, he would literally kick the metal trash can out into the hallway, sort of thing. Right?
Yeah.
We never came up with a solution when he's in that mode. But if you switch into a positive outlook, holy crap, man, that's awesome because things just it's like, oh, cool. You want to talk about the squirrel problem? That becomes the squirrel problem because you're like, oh, cool. Oh, cool.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that's how you solve problems with a positive attitude. Negative attitude,
Yeah.
all you want to do is say, nope, it'll never work, or screw that. Somebody else will steal it or screw it up for me. So why should I try?
Yeah. 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 Totally agree. I mean, it's that place of positivity where we really make progress. What's interesting, though, when we think about purpose and triggers, I think there's probably a very deep relationship there. Are you familiar with Susan David's work on emotional agility by any chance? Have you read
No,
that?
no, no, I haven't.
It's one to look at. So she would say that when we get really triggered, it's probably it's like a data point.
Mm-hmm.
It gives us some indication as to which of our values is getting violated in a moment. And so while it's true, we don't want to let the negativity overwhelm us. When it does strike us, I think there's this beautiful space between sort of self-criticism or criticism of others and an immediate move to positivity. I think there's this interesting space where we sort of mindfully watch, ooh, I'm getting triggered. What's going on here? And it can kind of be an interesting data point to reveal values, which might even maybe help us explore our purpose, right? Like when one of our values is violated, it's a natural moment for us to get pissed off. And so I think I imagine, and I haven't thought about it too much, but there's probably a powerful relationship um, between watching for those triggers and maybe even contributing to the self-awareness that you pointed out is so essential to finding our purpose, right?
Yeah, well, I'd never thought about that, but as you were describing that, I was reflecting on it, and it's like, well, let's just stay in the road rage sort of thing.
Yeah.
When that happens, it's because, you have a value of, my value of being honest and having an integrity. And if somebody's
Yeah.
driving crazy, they're also putting people in danger. I believe they're putting people in danger, right? Or
Yeah.
if they're changing lanes and they didn't signal, you know, those are outside my value, and therefore I am judging them for what their actions they're doing. There's a whole another conversation to talk about too.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but
Yep.
I'm going to have to check out Susan's book, because it's a really interesting way. I never thought about it that way, but it makes a lot of sense. Is how it ties to your values, and that's what that trigger is violating, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Curious to dig a little bit deeper into some of these sort of case studies and moments in which you've been able to bring tribe and purpose to organizations. So I know for our audience of human-centric C-suite leaders, they're always looking for ways to deepen their organization's humanity. Is there a case study or two or a story that you could tell about bringing tribe and purpose to an organization either now or maybe in the military context? That's sort of memorable and can teach our audience something.
Well, I'll start with a simple individual one, uh, and it's with the veterans or the active duty service members that I volunteer to coach. And that's it. For me, that's an easy one, because I had to learn that lesson the hard way. It took me 7 years to figure it out. And I tell every one of them this is why I do this, because I'm so passionate about preventing you from spending 7 years figuring it out.
Yeah.
But what I do with the two organizations, and the two organizations are the Commit Foundation and the Honor Foundation, both nonprofits, both help active duty service members focus in the special ops world transition into civilian life. And each of them have a little bit different approach, but similarities. And the heart of it is, how do you find your purpose? And that's what I love working with these guys and gals to do, is how do you do that? And I walk them through those 3 steps, and we dive into that, and it helps them start to understand what they can do what they do when they get out, what kind of opportunities. And I always challenge them to be intentional in what they're doing. Don't just take that offer letter because you think now somebody loves you because they sent you an offer letter. I don't. That ain't what it means, buddy. You got a lot more value than just that. And I teach them how to compare apples to apples too, because I have them build a decision matrix, and it's a military term. But basically, you develop a set of criteria, and then you compare. My recommendation is you score everything on a scale of 1 to 5, and all your criteria, from your personal values to what kind of 401k, how much time off, what's the commute, all these sort of things that may or may not be important to you, to include the organization's values and what's in that organization. So not just you in that organization, but what's that organization do, so you can evaluate that too. And for that, now you can compare apples to apples. And that's a powerful place to be, because it puts you being intentional in discovering and achieving what you want to do next. So that's kind of a generalized case study. I've had several guys who, a couple of months afterwards, we finish up our coaching, and they they get out, they call me up and they're like, man, thank you so much. That decision criteria, that decision matrix you had me do, man, because there was this one I thought it was it, but then I started going down the list, and then this other one came in, and I started comparing, and yeah, it allows you to do an intentional thing and not reactionary.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's so powerful. I'm sorry, did you want to add to that?
No. I was just
Okay.
that's kind of the where I would say an individual case study is
Yeah,
that, and it's not just military. This applies to anybody, whether it's a career change, whether you can do this with your business. Do you need to pivot your business? You can do this same process for that. It doesn't have to be, I'm an active duty service member
yeah,
going into the civilian workforce. There's
yeah.
this process applies in a lot of different places, and not just individually. It also applies to businesses. It's I was going to say scalable, but it's not really a scalable thing. But I guess it truly is, because in a business,
Mhm.
you're talking about a lot of people, so it is scalable.
Yeah, yeah, I think it is scalable, right? You're empowering people to make decisions in an intentional way. You're
Mhm.
empowering them to kind of get out of their heads and get out of those triggers. How often do we, in crisis mode, make decisions from those triggered places, right? And
Yeah,
so you can't always rely on instincts. Sometimes being able to outsource some decision making to this more objective tool can give you real freedom. And if you then tie that to your purpose, holy shit, right? Now our purpose is guiding us, not the trigger, not the crisis.
exactly. It allows you to be objective because you're comparing apples to apples, and in that objectivity, you're becoming more intentional and less reactionary. It's
Yeah,
getting in front of the curve of what's happening, so
yeah,
that you're in charge of what's going on
yeah,
instead of reacting to things coming at you.
yeah, yeah. Love it, love it, love it, love it. So Otis, as we come towards the end of our time together, on this show, we're all about fun. We're all about humanity. And, when you're not bringing tribe and purpose to organizations and coaching veterans in transition, what do you do for fun?
Hmm. Depends on the time of year. Uh, this time of year, I love to, well, all of it revolves around being outside and getting back into the woods, nature, whatever you want to call it. Get out of the house, get out of the building, get out of the city, and get back to that natural setting and that feeling
Mm,
that I get, whether I'm skiing or hunting or just walking around out in the woods. It just, man, there's so much there, in a
mm,
sense of clearing your mind, detaching from other things, and allowing your mind to just think and just do. And
mm.
in hunting, you can be very intentional in what you do and how you do it, and then you got to become reactionary in what the animals are doing. And
Yeah,
skiing, same thing. It's
yeah,
very intentional in where you go, which routes and stuff like that. But as you're going down and the conditions change, you have to react. So you have to be prepared for those reactions. And these sort of things are great mental exercises that
yeah,
are separated from what we're doing right here, you know, in the day, working with clients, putting together a marketing campaign, or helping somebody else do something like that. Those are all great. I love this. I love what I
yeah,
do. But when you step out into that world, it's different. And it's just,
yeah.
a friend of mine is, and I think he's calling it, man, I can't remember what he's calling, but like cleansing. And I'll have to call him up and apologize because I can't think of what it's called. But going out into the woods and doing a nature cleanse, where basically
Mm,
you just kind of, it ain't, I've made fun of them. It ain't like taking off your clothes and rolling around in the pine needles sort of cleanse, but it's just getting out and getting away from everything so that you can detach and relax, because out there it's not happening at the speed of light.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I love to do, is just, I mean, I even just go out in my yard. I put a bench out. I'm on about 3 acres in the trees, so I put a bench
Mm,
far end of our lot, and I call it my thinking spot. So I just
mm.
go out there and just sit.
Yeah.
15 minutes, hour, whatever, and just sit. It's kind of nice to do that.
Yeah, you're inspiring me. I got to get outside a little bit more. I think you're right on the money. Listen, it has been such a pleasure. So much awesomeness to celebrate in this conversation. So drawn to the pattern of transcending reaction, right? Transcending this unintentional decision making, transcending these patterns that the world throws at us, whether it's getting out of the military and looking for purpose, whether it's an organizational leader who could be making decisions in a crisis from a place of reaction and trigger. It feels like a big part of your purpose is to help it, in solving your own problem of helping people build self-awareness and intentionality around decision making. You're helping them transcend triggers and get super intentional about who they are, and helping them really focus on manifesting what they truly want, not what the world throws at them. And I think that's such essential work in a moment of pandemic. So it's been such a pleasure being with you and learning from you today. Just a total blast, Otis.
It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it, Dan. Always good to chat with you, and thank you for the opportunity to share.